Allied victory. If you remember the First World War, the turning point was the entrance of the United States in the war. History repeats itself. 1942, with the entrance of the United States in the war, was the turning point for the World War II. Then the Allies began a series of decisive offensives. Battle of Midway, the Battle of Alamein, and the Battle of Stalingrad. The Battle of Midway took place between the 4th and 7th of June 1942, near the island of Midway. The United States Navy defeated the Imperial Japanese Navy and was considered the turning point of the Pacific War. After the battle, the importance of air superiority was proved. The Japanese Navy lost its 4 main aircraft carriers and were forced to return home. Without any form of air superiority, the Japanese never again launched a major offensive in the Pacific. The Battle of El Alamein took place between the 23rd October and the 11th of November 1942 in Egypt. The Allied victory prevented the Axis conquest of Egypt, the Suez Canal, and the Middle Eastern and Persian oil fields. The Axis army was defeated by the British army and the superiority of Allied material. And the Battle of Stalingrad was a long one that took place between the 17th July 1942 and the 2nd February 1943. It was fought in the industrial city of Stalingrad and stopped the German advance into the Soviet Union. The Germans tried to occupy the city to cut Soviet transport links with southern Russia and to drive into the oil fields of the Caucasus. At the same time, Hitler wanted personal propaganda by seizing the city that bore the name of Soviet leader, Joseph Stalingrad. The effects of these battles meant that by 1943 the Axis powers were retreating on all fronts: Russia, Southern Europe, and the Pacific. In Russia, after Stalingrad, the Battle of Kursk in August 1943 was the largest tank battle in history. 6,000 tanks, 4,000 aircrafts, and 2 million troops were involved. The German army was defeated and its offensive capability stopped. In Southern Europe, after defeating the German and Italian armies in North Africa, the Allies invaded Italy. The king Vittorio Emanuele deposed Mussolini and the dictator was executed by the Italian people. Anyway, the German troops resisted and tried to block the Allied advance towards the north. In the Pacific, the Allied force won an important battle against the Japanese fleet, the Battle of Guadalcanal. After this battle, the Allies started conquering islands and establishing military bases on them in order to attack the next ones. Establish new military bases to attack next one. It was a strategy designed by United States General MacArthur, called leapfrogging. Since the beginning of the invasion of Russia, Joseph Stalin, the leader of the Soviet Union, asked the Allies to start an offensive on the Western Front, to create a second front for the Germans. But the Allies didn't start this front until 1943. By this time, the advance of the Soviet army meant an expansion of the Soviet Union, and the Allies resolved then the invasion of France. In June 1944, the Allies launched the Operation Overlord, the Normandy landings. The main objective was to invade and occupy France, and reach Germany before the Soviets. The Allies advanced towards Germany, while bombing German cities trying to make civilians revolt against Hitler. The Germans tried to resist, and launched an offensive in the Battle of the Ardennes in December 1944, but it was unsuccessful. The Allied forces reached Germany and the Soviets occupied Berlin in April. On 1st May 1945, the Reichstag, the German parliament, was taken. Hitler committed suicide and Germany surrendered. However, the war went on for 3 months in the Pacific. Japanese forces and civil population were resolved to resist and kill so many enemies as they could. This Japanese policy would cost many lives of American soldiers, and at the same time the Russian influence was growing within the region. As a result of this, the president resolved to drop the new atomic bomb. 2 atomic bombs were dropped on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki to finish the war. The massive destruction caused by the atomic bombs had a double effect: the surrender of Japan, first objective, and a warning for the Soviet Union, second objective. World War II ended with the Japanese unconditional surrender, signed on 2nd September 1945, on board the USS Missouri.